Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break.
What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome to a pre-recorded version of Talk of the Toon with me and Sid. How are you, Sid?
Not bad, bit of a mad day, but not bad.
Mad day here. We're actually pre-recording this at 9 o'clock at night. I think it's the latest I've ever done an NUFC Matters show. Maybe the lockdown or the takeover was when we did one like this. But yeah, internet problems for Sid and a bit of work's come into play as well. But here we are, slightly shorter show tonight. You'll have to forgive us. We are going to finish this after about 45 minutes. But we'll have our usual segment of music as well towards the end. So let's get cracking with the football. Newcastle, of course, travelled down to the Etihad, not a happy hunting place, we said before the game, Sid, and it's continued to be the same, not a happy hunting ground, 4-0 defeat. And I guess it was the manner of the defeat which probably disappointed Mags more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I went with 2-2, if I remember rightly, beforehand. That was my sort of prediction. I thought we'd get something out of the game. I didn't think we'd get beat. I was fairly confident. And we were awful. None of the first 11 turned up. I'm not going to blame the goalkeeper. I know he got chipped, but it was his job to come out and try and go for the ball. And obviously, the way it worked out with Trippier, he ended up getting lobbed. So I'm not going to blame the goalkeeper. But everybody else, everybody was awful. Even the top men like Tonali, who's normally unbelievable, and Isaac, none of them had a decent game. Not one person. It's very rare. You got a whole starting 11. Don't come out of the blocks. It's very, very rare. But what's frustrating, this is about the 5th, 6th time this year we've actually took a real tonking off various teams, whether it's been 3s and 4s or whatever. So that's worrying. And it's a concern, if I'm being perfectly honest. I thought we'd get something. I cannot believe we haven't scored since DeAndre Yedlin scored at Man City, which was 2018, might be 17, might be 18. I mean, how many minutes is that? I mean, That's a serious amount of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
7, 8 games, something like that. We've gone without scoring. I mean, the chances must be virtually zero, but obviously we've gone and achieved that that task, and we've looked absolutely garbage. There was just nothing. I'm not going to blame the manager in terms of his formation because that's exactly the team I would have picked. I think most of us would have probably picked that team. I'll be honest. Some of them done themselves no favors. I think Joe Willock, for me now, his position as a backup left winger to Gordon. That he looked. I mean, yes, he played against Birmingham, and they're considerably lower in the league, of course. But that looked like his position. He's an attacker. I don't see him as a midfielder. I don't think he can do the job well enough. But I can't see him as attacker. I mean, personally, I would maybe have him more than Harvey Barnes on the left, if I'm being brutally honest. That might not be a very popular opinion as a backup, but he didn't do it. He was poor. They were all poor. I mean, it speaks volumes that the two lads who came on at half time were our best two players.
Yeah.
I think that's the real concern. I mean, Miley looked very good actually. He's a good, solid player, isn't he? He's got a lot about him. I wish he had a bit more pace, but everything else he's got, and he looks a super player. He's very composed, lovely touch, got vision. He's got everything you want, as a footballer, apart from a little bit of speed. And Livramento looked better as a fullback. Which I'll be honest, I would have picked Trippier to start with. So he would have been my starting fullback. So it shows you what I know, And they were garbage. They were just torn apart, silly mistakes, time after time. And again, that lack of pace at the back. There are some players who are very lucky to be in the starting lineup for me. I'm a huge fan of Fabian Schär, but he looks like he's gone over the hill as far as I'm concerned. He's had a terrible season. He's played, I don't know how many games he's played. He's played a lot of games this year. And I think you can count on 2 or 3 fingers the amount of good games he's actually had, because there ain't that many. And he just doesn't look the same player anymore. And I can't believe we're considering the phrase giving him an extended contract. There has to be a time sometimes where you just say, right, that's it, folks. That's all. Time to move on. Time to, and I hate the phrase, but upgrade. Upgrade in terms of personnel. But he's reached that natural progression. This light's doing my head in, sorry. He's reached that natural, glasses. He's reached that natural progression in life where he's hit a certain age.
Yeah.
And what's the point in keeping a player who's getting older? Obviously we're getting older and older, but he's getting older and he's not getting any quicker. He wasn't the quickest to start with, but he's getting slower, and his positional play is getting worse. And you're thinking, well, this isn't the guy that was sensational for most of last year. I mean, the drop-off is quite stark. Time to move on if that's the case. You've had a whole season to prove yourself otherwise, and unfortunately, he's just not done so. And I love him. I think he's great, but time to move on.
I mean, you mentioned you mentioned Trippier, you mentioned Fabian Schär as well. Joe Willock hasn't covered himself.
Yeah, I said before there.
Glory. You mentioned Miley coming in. So I mean, looking ahead, is it now the time to bring the youngsters in and to start, even if it costs you?
I don't like the whole sales change thing. I don't think it works. Look at the way we played against certain teams when we've done massive changes at like half time or through the game, and you bring 5 players on and then they don't know where they're playing, and it's just chaos. For me, 1 or 2 changes, yes. Willock definitely not starting for me, and I'd start Miley. That's it for me. Miley deserves a run of 4 or 5 games now, whilst Big Joe's out. And again, Big Joe might take a bit of time to get up the speed. He sometimes does. He's like one of those players who doesn't immediately come in and hit the ground running, to coin a cliche.
Yeah.
And again, I would drop Schär. I would drop him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put the other lad in. Kraft. I'll put Kraft in. He's Kraft. What Kraft's got that he hasn't got. He's got a bit more pace. Kraft's one of these funny ones. He starts off quite slow and then he gets a proper head of steam up, and he's quite quick. I would definitely have I would start him. He's got a great pass on him as well, Kraft, which is an underrated thing that he's got. And I can't believe I'm saying this because 5-6 years ago, he looked like one of the worst players we've ever had. And he's turned things around magnificently. So well done to him. He's a huge success story, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Those would be the two I would bring in and no more. I mean, people calling for Murphy to be gone, after one bad game? And let's be honest, everybody else played poorly. Everybody else, all our favourites, the likes of Tonali and Isaac, all played poorly. Are we going to drop all of them as well? So let's have a bit of rational sort of thought about things. Murphy's been fabulous all season, so I would certainly start him. But what I would like to have seen is the young lad Asula come on, 25 minutes to go. We were beaten at that point anyway. We weren't going to come back from 3-0 down against Man City.
No.
So give him 25, 30 minutes to test himself up against a quality team and see what he's like on the right, because he looked better on the right than he did up front, if I'm being perfectly honest. He's got something. What it is, I'm not quite sure yet, but he's got something, hasn't he? So give him a little bit of a run out. But I don't want to see wholesale changes, otherwise it's just crazy. 2 at most for me, 2. That's it.
I mean, I was speaking to Joe Allen about this for the podcast this week, and I was talking about grounds where you tend to struggle. I mean, over the years, we've had some grounds where there was always a bit of a hoodoo. I mean, for years, we couldn't win in London. When we used to go to the South Coast and go to the Dell, the old Dell, we never won. We never used to win there at all. Matt Letizia haunted us a couple of times there. But when you look at other grounds, dare I say it, and we're going to a couple of them over the next month.
Anfield's the worst.
Anfield and Wembley.
Anfield's the worst. I mean, the Wembley one's a funny one, isn't it, Steve? I mean, I was working this out, and I keep thinking, surely the law of averages.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, surely the law of averages has to strike, because I was also trying to think of when Northeastern teams have been there as well. If you think about it, then surely one of them's got to win there. And it's like,
in my time, I can remember games where we won there. I remember Mirandina, getting that and doing his penalty and making waving to the cop. I remember a game in the Entertainers era where we went down there and we got a win just after Hillsborough's commemoration, I think it was. I remember. I think it was Rob Lee. I think, in fact, walking up with a wreath to the cop end or something like that. I think, were we not one of the first teams to play down there in the 90s when they'd done some kind of big commemoration? I can't remember. Something springs to mind. Something springs to mind about the early Entertainers side going down there and beating.
Well, I remember going there the year after we'd won, and we got beat 2-1, and I was stuck in the Anfield Road end with the bloody Liverpool fans. They were actually very pleasant to us, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. They all when they win.
They all when they win. And I was there with me Newcastle badge and that on. But it was God, we got a terrible record there. But then they've always had a better squad generally, apart from that short period of time. They've always had a better squad, better team. And why? Because they were backed to the hilt by flipping was it Littlewoods Pools for a number of years.
Yeah,
they had all of that. They always, people forget they bought Peter Beardsley was a British record when they bought Peter Beardsley. People forget all about these things, and buy the league, this, that, and the other. But it's always gone on.
Of course it has.
Apart from, and we can all name the exceptions because they're so. The phrase is exception. Nottingham Forest, Derby County, or both under Brian Clough, of course. Leicester City in more modern times. Those are the exceptions, because Blackburn Rovers, let's be honest, they bought the title, really, didn't they? They bought very, very well, but there was a fair outlay. Nobody can say that they didn't help themselves financially with it. There was Manchester United, bought all the best players in the 90s, and the noughties to a fair point. Chelsea have done the same. Man City have done the same, and there's no in Liverpool, of course, in the 80s. And late 70s as well. So there's no surprise if you look at the correlation of spend in terms of who wins the tournaments and who wins what. It's just not a surprise. I mean, financially, in terms of outlay, I believe Newcastle are 7th or so in the league. And that's roughly where we are in the league currently, you know. The disparity, of course, is the fact that Man United and Spurs are way lower than they should be finally in terms of their outlay. But you'll often find at the end of the season there's a huge correlation between spend and where you end up. You know, it's not a surprise. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
So yeah, and unfortunately, we're at a certain position at the moment, and we're hampered. And Liverpool have always done well. They've always had a bit of luck, and they've had some terrible decisions go their way as well. Let's be honest. I'm sorry, but the shadow still haunts me in terms of a decision. I think it's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. That Isaac Shadow. I mean,
Yeah. No, it was. I was there.
For people there. I mean, it's disgraceful. It's a shocking decision. I still can't comprehend it. But
No.
so we've never had any luck there really, you know. And then we look at Wembley, and I was thinking of this the other day. I mean, the first game I've mentioned this a number of times. The first game I ever watched was the '74 Cup final. I sometimes think it's me. It was so 74, 76. Then we got beat in 98, 99. But we also lost the Charity Shield, which people forget as well. I can't remember what year that was. And then we got 2000. We got beat off bloody Chelsea, where we should have won really. And then there's the last one as well. So we're probably up now to, is this our 8th game?
Yeah.
Since a win at Wembley in 1955. So surely.
Well, with the exception, of course, of beating Liverpool in '88 at the Mercantile Credit Classic Trophy with a Neil MacDonald penalty. Just talking about Wembley tickets. So, did you get one?
I did get one. Yeah.
Good.
After my story last week.
Good. Well, that's good. What did you make of the news that broke on Tuesday that Exeter City? Did you see that Exeter City?
I texted me mate with a link.
So 12 tickets were available via Exeter City's Community Trust. 1 pair to the Community Trust, 2 pairs to the club, 3 pairs to trust members. Basically hoping to receive their full allocation of 12 tickets, which will be in 6 pairs. That's what they put on their website. So, I mean, ultimately, this seems to be like an EFL, club kind of thing that goes on with this particular trophy. So, of course,
it is, because I know somebody, for example, last time who went because they know somebody with the Scottish FA.
All right, okay.
So they got tickets through the Scottish FA. So yeah, it's like everybody knows different people in how that sort of works. It's it just stinks, doesn't it, for like all the proper fans who've gone and all the rest of it, and people who've got loads of points and all the various other bits and bobs that go with it as well. It feels wrong. However, and I know this, and I know people are harping on and saying there must be a better way, but it seems like quite a fair way that they've generally done it in terms of the club. I just think the FA should really give the clubs, both clubs obviously, a bigger chunk of a larger percentage of tickets, which I was seeing last week. I think the corporate percentage is ridiculous. And as for all these clubs getting tickets, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. You know, I mean, why? You know, so no, is my response.
You're never going to please everybody. That's the bottom line with that.
No, and you can't, and that's why I'm thinking. And I know people might not like it, but if you've got the cup games, then I think then fair dues. You've done. It's like the old days when you used to get the old stamps they used to put in your programs. So it's the same as that. You know, it's not a million miles away. If you went to the cup game, then for me, you should be higher up on the list with the opportunity to go to the cup.
TV games being confirmed now as well. The Brighton home match in the FA Cup 5th round will take place 1:45 kick-off Sunday, March the 2nd. Another TV game, just to let everybody know that the ballot for members and season ticket holders not in the cup scheme is now open. That will have closed today, which is Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Ballot winners will be emailed by 11 o'clock on Thursday, with seat selection from Thursday at 1 o'clock for 24 hours. And then there'll be a member sale from Monday, which is the 24th of February at 10 o'clock. Season ticket forwarding and resale from Monday, the 24th of February at 4 o'clock. Brighton avoided reference to their allocation size when announcing the ticket sale, given that they had 2,000 here in October. Travel options aren't great for this particular game, so it would appear they probably wouldn't sell out at the maximum number of places, so there should be some tickets returned and available to home supporters. There is some uncertainty about what the upper figure is, but Bromley in the FA Cup and Chelsea and Arsenal in the Carabao Cup were allocated just under 5,000. The former selling a smaller amount than the latter two selling out, of course. So maybe some tickets left for that. Newcastle fans will certainly want to make a big noise for that game, probably more so than they did for the league game against Brighton, which hopefully will give us a bit of a lift. But yeah, TV playing its part again. And we had an interesting question a couple of days ago, which I never got a chance to ask the fans forum, and that was, if Newcastle do win the Carabao Cup, Sid, would you be that concerned about a high league place? You know, given that if we win it, we'll be in Europe anyway. Would you be bothered about the Champions League, and would you concentrate more on the FA Cup perhaps if you had that opportunity?
I think you've got to go with the attitude you got to win everything.
Yeah.
But what I will caveat that with, if we lost every game of the season and won the League Cup, I'll take that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my answer.
No, I get you. I get exactly where you're coming from. Okay, because we're doing a shorter show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look ahead to the Nottingham Forest game now, and then when Rob comes, we'll bring him in and talk music. So Newcastle, of course, take on Nottingham Forest this coming Sunday. It's a 2 o'clock game. It's live on Sky Sports. Early for team news, but Sven Botman could return. That was mentioned by Eddie Howe at the weekend before the Man City game, that he should be available for Forest. Joelinton and Jamal Lascelles still remaining unavailable. As for Forest, Carlos Miguel and Taiwo Awoni are doubts, but we will see potentially the return of three former Newcastle players to St James's Park. Elliot Anderson, of course, recently departed in the summer. Matt Sells, the goalkeeper, and of course Chris Wood, the man who got the hat-trick in this corresponding fixture last season. On away games over the last couple, Bournemouth beat Forest 5-0 and Fulham beat them 2-1. So slight downturn of form away from home for Forest, although the home form's been impeccable. We have been one of the few teams to go down there and actually beat them, of course. The referee this weekend is Jared Gillette, the best a man can get. Second appearance of the season for the Australian-born official. He also took charge of the 1-1 against Man City. And VAR, of course, will be on operation because it's the Premier League, and that is Peter Banks. After losses to Bournemouth and Fulham, Newcastle will, of course, be hoping to avoid 3 successive Premier League home defeats for the first time since February 2021 under Steve Bruce. And a 3-1 success on the banks of the Trent in November gives the Magpies an opportunity of their 4th league double of the season, following maximum returns against Spurs, Wolves and Southampton already this season. So give us your views on this game then, Sid. It's a big game because it's our next one, but it's a chance to bounce back.
It is a chance to bounce back and get within 3, it might be 4 points, I can't remember, somebody can correct me, of Notts Forest, who have dropped a little bit. I mean, Bournemouth look the team, don't they? They're the best team we've played all year. But for me, they're the team to worry about in terms of getting in the Champions League, not Chelsea, not the others. It's them. Forest. I think Forest will qualify for Champions League, if I'm being perfectly honest, because of their home form. And there's always some. In fact, this could be a real shock here when I think about it. But Forest, good team. Good manager. What the Spurs fans must be thinking now about forcing that guy out as the manager, they must be kicking themselves. He's got them playing nice football. They're really well structured. You know, they've got a lovely formation in terms of the way that they play. You know, the fullbacks look good. The 2 centre halves look really good. You've got Anderson sort of almost doing the sort of sweepery rule in the middle. Gibbs White, fabulous player in my opinion. Chris Wood making the most of his ability and doing really well. So hats off to him. But in a formation that works for him, he still would not score at Newcastle United under our current formation. May I just put that out there, you know. unless you had to change the style of football. That's my opinion anyway. And they've got 2 cracking wingers, so they look a real team, real handful. I think it's going to be a really hard game, Steve, if I'm being honest. I don't think we'll lose, but my opinion is I don't think we'll win either. I think it'll be a draw. So
okay, well, I've gone for a narrow 2-1 win. I think Chris Wood will score. He scores every week. He scores every week. But I think we'll get a win in this game. I think Newcastle will have the bit. I think they'll have the bit between their teeth. I think they will want to bounce back. And, from my perspective, that's all that matters. Newcastle getting a 2-1 win. Okay, slightly shorter show. We'll do the ads at the end tonight. So we're going to bring in Rock and Rob now, and we are going to pay tribute to somebody. You'll find out in just a second who exactly that is. And welcome to Rob. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad. Obviously, with the sad passing of Rick Buckler, I found out this evening he had a short illness. I think he was still doing in conversations and interviews, but I wasn't aware he was unwell. So yeah, sad loss.
Yeah, In the Crowd was a show that he brought to the Northeast. I promoted Rick up here, which was a pleasure for me to be able to do that. I managed to promote him as part of From the Jam, so I can proudly say that I did bring him up to the Northeast and put him on up here, but also did In the Crowd. Not many people were taking this on. He brought a wonderful book out and did a little tour up in the Northeast, and it was a cracking night. June the 10th, there you go, 2015. Only 65 people came along to that event. I bet you wish there was a few more people wish they'd come now. But yeah, sad news. I think when the rumours were going round, none of us quite believed it. I think, we've all heard the news that Bruce hasn't been too well, and people were expecting the worst with Bruce. But it's sad news. And Rob's paid his respects. I've paid mine there, Sid. I'm sure you want to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a couple of shows on them, obviously, so it shows you how much I love the Jam. I mean, well, obviously been bombarded with texts off different friends there, I mean, as a band, they were the band, weren't they? You had, for me, as a kid, they were probably the most important of all the bands. You had them and The Clash and a few others, but it was probably mainly the Jam for me at that point when I was growing up. And I mean, I was a genius, just a truly great songwriter, but the band were magnificent. I mean, Funeral Pyre, if you want to listen to Rick, go and listen to Funeral Pyre.
I've just posted that on Facebook today. Yeah.
I mean, just an incredible song. I love all that post-punk thing going on with them, the drums, the power, the bass by Bruce, magnificent. They were just such a great rhythm section. And what the biggest tribute to them, they always sounded more than 3 of them because they were such a tight band. They had such a big sound. They are probably, for me, the greatest 3-piece band as well. I love ZZ Top as well, but they're different. But I think they're the greatest 3-piece band that there is. And they were the band of our generation. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion anyway, And I mean, Snap is probably the greatest hits album I think there is out there. It's, for me, probably is the greatest hits album out there. It's just definitive. Just marvelous band, great drummer, obviously. I mean, you just know he's got certain signature songs. You just hear the drum beat; it's just fantastic. What a sad loss, isn't it? And I think also the real shame as well is that there's no real photos of all 3 of them together later on in life because there was still that tension, and that's really sad. I know Bruce and Paul get on very, very well, but it would have been nice for all 3 of them just to say, listen, we're all grown men, and let's just get on with it, man. For God's sake. And that's a bit sad. I know Rick got on well until he passed, obviously, with Paul's sister, but it's just a shame. It is a shame.
Tragic news. Somebody who's definitely had a profound effect on all our lives, and I know there's a few people in the chat. Alan Little, for one, who watches the show regularly, was very upset. So our thoughts with Rick Buckler's family at this time. Okay, and moving on to music that Rob won't be reviewing today, and it's Good Time Fanny. Who do you think you're fooling? Great set of haircuts there. I couldn't touch any of Angel's haircuts. I've got to be perfectly honest. Some absolute belters there.
Brilliant.
I do rock double denim though, lads. So I'll leave it at that. What are you bringing to us today, then, Rob?
Well, I'm going for Genesis Duke album.
Oh.
Obviously, I moved house last week, sorting my vinyl out, and seeing this, and I remembered buying this at the time in Woolworths in Dalkeith. So in 1980 it was, and I remember having to work really hard in the garden and doing these extra jobs to save up and buy this album. Still have it, but yeah, good album. Not listened to it for a long, long time. This is their 10th album. Like I say, this was 1980. I didn't know that Phil Collins approached Pete Townsend and asked if he could replace Keith Moon. But obviously, Kenny Jones had already done that. I never knew that. That's interesting. So it opens with Behind the Lines. It's very dramatic, big intro, really powerful. It did sort of remind me of Cinema by Yes. Again, solid drumming. How he uses his kit, it's it's remarkable. Like I say, I bought this album, roughly when it came out. You go to track 2, Duchess. Tony Kaye's keyboard parts on this, again, supported by this drum machine part on this, really good. Nice harmonies on this one. Just a pleasant mid-tempo tune. You've got guide vocal. This is 1.5 minutes. Just nice lyrics. I mean, you're the one who guided me this far. Don't ever leave me. It's just really nice. Soft violin, nice piano parts. You got Man of Our Times. Big drum production, reminded me of John Bonham, that sort of sound, that open sound. Really, really nice pause at the 4-minute mark on this one. It's quite unusual. It's quite dark, this song, in a way, but it's prog and classic rock for me. You've got Misunderstanding. For me, this is my favourite song on the album. Nice, piano and the bass make this one for me a good uplifting track, one of those toe tapping songs. You just put it on the background, your foot will just start automatically going. You've got Heat Haze. This one's sort of more gritty. It's quite an emotion one. It's poetry, really. Nice piano arrangements, but again by Tony Banks. Nice off-key changes as well. It just gives it a different direction. Turn it over. You've got side B. Turn It On Again. I remember hearing this at the time. I think this was a song that, I really like that song. It's very, very radio friendly, a big hit at the time as well.
The rhythm's mad on it, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just a classic song. Again, it's one of those ones that if you haven't heard it for years and years, go back and listen to it again. It's brilliant. Again, I'd encourage anybody to listen to it on vinyl for that warmth tone you get on it. Then you've got Alone Tonight. It's a nice 12-string guitar part on this. Good build-up. It's a very commercial sounding. Again, really pleasant song. Cul-de-sac. To me, this is a masterpiece by Tony Banks. Big sound, very theatrical again, and the end of it is stunning. It's so powerful. It's beautiful, really. Then you've got Please Don't Ask. Again, it's a personal song. To me, it's more of a Phil Collins, like a solo sound that, it's sort of like a heartbreaking love song. And I think Phil Collins was quite surprised this was put on the album because it was so personal. I think it was his marriage at the time in America somewhere. It was sort of set on that. And you've got Duke's Travels. I think you've got Duke's Travels and then it ends in Duke's End. I don't know why they've done it separately. I should have just put it the one, I think. But it would have been, I think, better just to add them together. It's an epic track. It's a really, really, really good middle-eight section on this. Again, that's top drawer. Then you've got Duke's End. Again, the drums, the production on this. I think, to me, listening to this now that I'm older, I think only Rush and Yes, in my opinion, can make like the wall of sound that this is, especially this song. It's just that there's not many bands that can just nail it like that. And I was just thinking as well, I can't really remember another, prog album after this. I'm wondering if this is the last one, but I still prefer Peter Gabriel's, Genesis. I think it was just more experimental, a bit more dark, a bit more off kilter for me. But overall, it's getting an 8 out of 10 for me. Really good. Listen to it again. Obviously, I think they've had another album cover with a man looking out the window. This was done by a French illustrator whose name I cannot pronounce, so I won't try. So yeah, I really enjoyed listening to it though.
Okay, good stuff, Rob.
It's a very good album. I totally agree with everything you said there. And I agree with Gabriel. He's just much more gothic and dark. Yeah, so I love all that. Jimmy Moas asked me to review an album, so I have.
All right, what is it?
He asked us to give him a shout out, so hello, Jimmy. And I've gone with Elvis Costello's This Year's Model from 1978, an absolute masterpiece. And Jimmy said this is one of his favorite ever albums, so I thought I'd go for it. I absolutely love this. It was recorded over 11 days, late 77 into 78. His first album had been a big hit, My Aim Is True, in 77, but it was done with the band Clover, who later on became Huey Lewis and the News. And it's got a real country tinge, that album. It's a fantastic album, by the way. But the second one, this one is a lot more new wave, punkier. Maybe it's a little less Springsteen than the first one. It's got a real edge to it, and it's just magnificent. So he basically hired the Attractions. And so we've got Bruce Thomas, one of the greatest bass players of all time, in my opinion, on bass. And Bruce was also from up here. He's from Stockton way. He used to be in a band with Paul Rodgers before he's formed Free, which people seem to forget. We've got Pete Thomas, no relation, incredible drummer, in my opinion. And Steve Naive, who came straight from music school to the Attractions. What a piano player he is. In my opinion, they're as good as the E Street Band. I just think they're an incredible band. The album really just kicks off incredibly. It starts off with No Action, which is about a lack of relationship. And it starts off with the lines, I don't want to kiss you, I don't want to touch, which is just brilliant. And then the band just coming with absolute ferocity. I mean, if you want to hear punk rock or anything really heavy and hard, that is the one to listen to. It's a great opening track. Just brilliant, really powerful. We then have the title track, This Year's Model, which is sort of mocking. It's inspired by the Rolling Stones' Stupid Girl. And it also links to sort of Costello's days in Estée Lauder as well, working there. I think it was on computers or something. So you've got references to that, which is a great track. The Beat is the next tune. It's got a great groove. It's quite Beatlesy, bit Stonesy. It's got something to it. It's got that sort of 60s feel to it. The keyboards really stand out on it. Steve Naive employs a range of sounds, including that sort of Del Shannon runaround sound on it, which is just fabulous. I love it. We've then got Pump It Up, which is probably the most famous track on the album. And I saw Elvis Costello once where he said it was written after a gig in Newcastle, and he wrote it on a fire escape. So apparently written in Newcastle. It's clearly influenced by Subterranean Homesick Blues by Bob Dylan. The drums really make this song, I think, in my opinion, with that sort of brilliant beat by Pete Thomas. So unusual, actually, I have to say. And then you've got the bass. You've got the sparsity of instruments sort of help the running guitar line, which make the song absolutely sublime. And he's got that stream of lyrics with that acidic sort of vocal delivery that he's got. And one of my favorite stories is his wife talking. Who's the jazz pianist? Is it Diane Kroll? And she was talking about their twin boys. And she says the kids sing none of her songs when they were like 4 or 5. They just used to bounce around the house singing "Pump It Up," which I think is great. At the side, then we've got Little Triggers, which is a beautiful love song about a failing relationship. Slow, it's lovely, it's beautiful. And then You Belong to Me is clearly inspired by the Rolling Stones The Last Time. But again, it's just great. Bruce Thomas, his bass, to coin Jimmy, is badass. It's great. It's just magnificent. It really holds the song. Side 2, Hand in Hand. It's like, again, vicious. It's got a 60s feel to it. with a tinge of new wave. We've then got I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea, which bizarrely wasn't on the American version because obviously they didn't probably know what Chelsea was or where. Again, highlights the band, incredible drum intro. I love the drum intro. It's got such a groove to it. It's so different. And it was even better live than actually on the album. It's got a real attack to it. And he's attacking fashionable society. We've then got, for me, the best track on the album, which is before we get that, we've got Lip Service, I beg your pardon. Again, going back to his days at SD Loader, it's got a number of sexual innuendos in it. And again, highlights the fantastic bass playing of Bruce Thomas. Living in Paradise, he wrote in 75, which is the next track for Flip City when he's in a pub rock band. We've then got the best track on the album, Lipstick Vogue. And it's the drum intro is fantastic. Pete Thomas, give him a round of applause. Just brilliant. The lyrics are vicious and intense. It says, don't say you love me when it's just a rumor. Don't say a word if there's any doubt. Sometimes I think it's just a tumor. You've got to cut it out. I mean, that is some that's some set of lyrics there. Brilliant. And then the album, and it's brilliant. It's really powerful. The dynamics on the song are superb. They go up and down, and they're just a powerhouse of a band. And then the last song, Night Rally, is a commentary on the National Front and its prevalence in the UK. And, Costello's disgusted at the whole thing, of course. Sadly, times don't change that much, unfortunately. It finishes with a sudden stop. And again, adds to that menace and sinister feel that Costello put over about the whole mood of that as well. So brilliant. Well done to him. Fantastic. And then in America, they added Radio, which, of course, famously did on Saturday Night Live for 30 years for it, which is a majestic song. He wrote it originally in 75, 76, but he rewrote it. In his frustration at the God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols being banned on the radio. And so he rewrote it. And it's a fantastic song. It's absolutely top draw. So you've got a little bit of politics by Elvis, and he's discussed what was going on in terms of society. You've got references to relationships and falling apart. You've got references to himself about him being the sort of, at the end of things. It's just brilliant. What a great album. 5 stars all day long. One of the best albums of the 70s. And for me, possibly the best album of 78. So there we go.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks for that, mate. And as always, you usually bring us a film or a book. What have you brought us today?
I've brought a TV series, and it's out. It's out, written by Trevor Preston. It came out in 1978 as well, so I thought I'd keep the theme going. And it's about the character Frank Ross, starring Tom Bell, who's done 8 years in jail for armed robbery. And he wants to know who's grassed him up, basically. And that's the whole premise of the story. It's got a stellar cast, if you look at it there. Brian Croucher and Brian Cox in one of his early days when he's very, very slim with blonde hair, bleached blonde hair. I mean, the cast are brilliant. You've got John Junkin. You've got Linda Robson. It's a fantastic cast. It's dark. It's violent. I mean, Trevor Preston wrote for the Sweeney. You've got that real Sweeney feel to it. It was also massive in London in the 70s. And there were in 78, people started writing on the walls, Frank Ross is innocent. So it's brilliant. If you get the chance, go and watch it. You can buy it as a download now on Amazon Prime. It's fantastic. It really is good. And so there we go. I love it. I think it's brilliant. And he refused to make a second series, which is a real shame because it's nicely set up for it without giving too much away. Brilliant.
Great stuff. Thank you for the reviews. Thanks to everybody for watching. As I say, a slightly shorter show tonight as it is a pre-record, and we are doing this quite late, past our bedtime. We need our beauty sleep at this age. Thanks to Rob. Thanks to Sid. Thanks to you for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you've got an album suggestion for Rob, please drop it into the chat below, and we will feature it next week. Thanks for joining us, lads. Take care.
Take care, folks. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email them at beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and your other podcast providers. If you want to help support the channel, hit the thumb up, which is the like button. Click share to share to your other social medias. Click join to join the channel. And click the subscribe button. We've also got links in our description for buy us a coffee and to be a Patreon member. Some events coming up. An afternoon with Sir Les Ferdinand, 6th of April, 12 till 4. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. No Covers takes place at the Cluny, Lilac Lane, Ryder and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets from theclooney.com or by telephone in 0191 230 4474. An evening with Steve Howie and Steve Watson, hosted by Joe Allen, takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 27th of June. Tickets for that are from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on the 23rd of January 2026. Box office 0844 246 1000 or website tynetheatreandoperahouse.tv. An evening with Bad Manners takes place on Friday the 30th of January 2026 and tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainers 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, available from newcastlelegends.com.